Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex. Once again, this is Big Baby Reviews. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Marvel poster book featuring the Amazing Spider-Man with the tagline, the very first all-poster pull-out Marvel magazine. I don't know if that's true or just a bit of marketing, but, there it is. So, keeping with the theme this week of slightly obscure stuff that I've never really seen reviewed or talked much about. So I pulled this out of my collection. I actually bought this fairly recently when I found out it actually existed. Definitely the kind of thing I would have loved as a kid. So the reason this is memorable for me is it's a good example of two things, okay? First of all, you probably noticed that even though his name is not mentioned anywhere in the title or in the blurb, all this artwork here is from Todd McFarlane, right? So you could almost argue that the very reason this magazine is being created is because of the McFarlane artwork, even though they're not really giving him any kind of credit on the cover. His signature, I mean, you can see it really here tiny if you know that it's there, but if you don't know that that's McFarlane's signature, I doubt you would spend much time looking at that, as small as it is. And we do have his kind of trademark signature here, McFarlane, but it's been obscured, and I don't think in the original print of this on the cover of, I believe, Amazing Spider-Man 300, somewhere around there, it's definitely visible, right? So it's almost like it's been obscured on purpose or through bad printing, okay? So this is a testament to the power of McFarlane as a marketing tool, his artwork and his name, to sell books and to sell, derivative products, t-shirts, and something like this, a poster book. It's also a testament to the evolution of his artwork as well, because already on this cover here, if I just compare two shots, even though this one here is very small, but it's iconic, I'm sure most people have seen this image, the cover of Spider-Man #1, this is in and around the point where McFarlane started on Spider-Man, and more specifically on Amazing Spider-Man, and he did at least, I think, about 2 years or a bit more on that series until a bit of a break, and then he started Spider-Man, the Just Spider-Man as the title series was basically given to him to start, and that's the cover to issue 1. And already there's even though the costumes are different, I'm talking about the evolution of the art style. There's a huge leap there, and that's why this book is interesting, and we're going to look at that. So let's have a look inside. Let's open her up. Hopefully I can get most of the image in there for when we get to the kind of bigger posters. So here it is, Marvel's first ever poster book featuring the Amazing Spider-Man by the artist who does him best, the amazing Todd McFarlane. At least they're giving him credit here. Reproduced in these pages is the artwork that formed the most exciting covers of Spidey's several titles, only this time they're liberated from the clutter of logos and corner boxes and blown up larger than life so that the true beauty of the art can shine unimpaired. With perforated edges to make for easy posting, this book is one offer you can't refuse. Who knows, this could be the start of a big idea. I don't know if it was, but I do think this was probably fairly popular in the sense that it was during the comics boom. Tom McFarlane was a huge artist, especially on Spider-Man. So again, marketing-wise, something like this just makes sense. The only thing I don't understand is just the order that they were put in, because they're not chronological. It would be nice to see an evolution in the art, and we jump around a lot to, like, earlier McFarlane, later, back and forth. So, the consistency is not so, improvement in the artwork, or fine-tuning of the artwork is not so obvious. So I'll try to point out which period we're at and see if you can spot kind of the differences between, the earlier McFarlane and the later McFarlane, right? Because things do change quite a bit as he gets comfortable. And, as he knows he's getting more popular, he's just allowing himself to do more of what he wants to do and less of what the editors are telling him to do, right? These are the classic stories with the webbing and stuff, right? I'm sure you've heard them all. But what he was doing was working. And that's obviously why also this book exists, right? So they do credit him up here, thankfully, and the artist over here in the credits. So there's at least that. So let's have a look at what we got here. So they start with kind of a, I would definitely describe as a money shot of the issue 1 cover of Spider-Man that we just talked about. So definitely starting with something, at that time, just fresh, newer, and, some of the best artwork he'd done at that point for Spider-Man. This here, just trying to get it, make sure I get a clear shot there. Seems to be kind of halfway through, maybe his Amazing Spider-Man run and Spider-Man. you know, kind of midway there. He's kind of, you know, starting to understand his ticks and stuff, and continually reproducing them. The webbing's getting a little crazier, right? But not fully crazy as we saw in Spider-Man 1. It's dated 1989 here, right? So, and a lot of these trademark notations say 1990, but the book seems to have been printed in 1991, if I'm not mistaken. Right down here. January 1991. Okay. So, again, we get a lot of those classic images, and they are starting with more recent stuff again at that time, right? These are all covers to his Spider-Man run. The issue, there we go. The issue guest starring Ghost Rider. One of the things he did that they didn't really do here, he adds the pupil, which no other artist really did at that time. If I'm not mistaken, in the actual comic, it's colored red. It actually kind of stands out, you know, it's kind of cool. McFarlane always found a way to add a little something or do something a little bit different as to what the other artists were doing, right? It's kind of part of his success, I think. Sometimes, you know, as an artist, it's more important to have a distinctive style than, you know, a clean style or a beautiful style, right? I like clean artists, quote unquote clean artists, and I really enjoy dirty, gritty artists as well. So now we're going back in time to the Amazing Spider-Man run. And here's where, you know, McFarlane's using a lot less shadow generally on the figures. It's a little cartoonier and maybe more kid-friendly. Obviously, this very heroic kind of character, Captain America, but it's been mentioned before in this illustration on this cover, always felt that the arms were like kind of stubby and short, almost like Captain America had somewhat midget or high challenged person's proportions. So this is also from the earlier run of Amazing Spider-Man. Some sort of, maybe this is Acts of Vengeance or something. That was the kind of crossover event where, you know, villains, you know, classic villains specific to, you know, for example, the Red Skull specific to Captain America generally as a villain, we're kind of doing the switcheroo. So the Red Skull was actually, you know, taking on Spider-Man, or Magneto was taking on, I don't know, Wonder Man or something. I don't know if that happened, but, you know, it was that kind of concept. That's a fairly well-known cover as well, right? Spider-Man taking on the Hulk. This is when Spider-Man had the Cosmic, or the Power Cosmic, I believe it's called. Yeah, so this is, you know, again, McFarlane building his popularity, building his chops. You know, you get some still somewhat cartoonier stuff. He tends to go a little darker when he reaches that Spider-Man series, that first Spider-Man series. Even, like, you know, the subject matter that he wrote about was darker, so I guess that makes sense. I feel like he was always kind of trying to go into that darker direction that he eventually went with Spider-Man, the series, and then later on his own creator-owned Spawn, right? There he kind of went full tilt into the horror genre. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, again, testament to McFarlane's art as a marketing tool, they got him to draw covers for classic Spider-Man, basically reprints of old Spider-Man stories, and he would redo the cover. So I believe it's like classic Spider-Man or Marvel Tales and these kind of books, right? I don't know all the titles and stuff, but I got fooled by a few of them because I enjoyed the cover, and then I would open it up, and to me at that time it was old-timey art that I didn't really enjoy, which I later learned to enjoy. But, you know, obviously the McFarlane art was what was attracting us to the comic, not necessarily the interiors, right? So another marketing ploy to get us to buy that comic, which is a reprint. So he was doing a lot of covers for those reprints. And these are some of them here, right? So this is still, I'm pretty sure, in and around, you know, maybe mid to late Amazing Spider-Man run. You know, the style is kind of consistent with that. Still superhero-y, a little bit cartoony, but not too dark. Not as many big black, you know, areas on the characters. Not too many shadows, right? sorry, what's on this other side here? Yeah, so that's another one of those, like, if it's not the X-Men crossing over with Spider-Man, it's in, you know, classic X-Men reprints or something like that. Good Wolverine. Always enjoyed McFarlane's Wolverine. His Wolverine in on his Spider-Man run was pretty fun, pretty extreme. It's like, you know, pre-Image kind of Wolverine, I guess is how I'd put it, or Imageified Wolverine. This one interesting. This is fairly early on his Amazing Spider-Man run. Down here, I see the top. I'm pretty sure once I unfurl that, that's a cover he did for the Amazing Spider-Man Venom trade paperback, right? Once Venom started becoming popular, they, you know, reprinted all those McFarlane issues with Venom, possibly even some Larson issues, and this is the cover for that. So at this time, still think it's like maybe late into his Amazing Spider-Man run or early Spider-Man. No adjective, somewhere around there. He's exaggerated Venom now more than before. He still hasn't pushed it with the tongue, though, like Eric Larson has. So he's kind of taken the Eric Larson tics of the really big mouth, the slobber and stuff, the big teeth, not yet integrated that big disgusting tongue. I don't think he ever will. Larson is kind of the one who brought it, you know, full tilt. And there's another good example, which I believe comes from that same trade. So Eddie Brock, his hair's colored wrong. He should be blonde. But McFarlane, once again, you know, integrating those Larson tics of the long teeth, slobber, just not the super gnarly tongue that comes out. And now again, because there's no chronological sense to this, we're going back to, like, you know, issue 298, 299, 300, in that area, the very first few issues that McFarlane did for Amazing Spider-Man. And then, you know, he drew, when the classic costume came back, he used the same pose, right? That will become a McFarlane trope as well, of redrawing, reusing classic covers he's done and poses, and you know, doing new characters in those same poses, homaging or swiping himself, I guess you could say. So here's very proto McFarlane, right? We don't have all the noodly lines yet. You know, this is pretty straightforward still, almost house style, right? But that's just the beginning of the Amazing Spider-Man run. That's why this poster book is interesting. Again, you get to see the evolution and the change in his style. So from this point on, let me just center it properly, right? Because we don't have any more double spreads and things. So it'll be a little easier to view this. Oh, I do have to center. So this is one of those covers I specifically remember that I was fooled into buying some sort of classic Spider-Man or Marvel Tales Spider-Man story. And when I opened it up, it was, you know, something from the 70s, I guess, late 60s, early 70s. Well, yeah, I was looking forward to art like this, and that's not what I found there. Early days, I figured it out pretty quickly. So most of these are, again, very early on Amazing Spider-Man covers. Sabretooth isn't too bad here. His hair's a little bit maybe too close to Wolverine's, actually, in a weird way. This is he does refer to Siegel and Schuster on this, which is awesome because it is in that case, an homage to one of those classic Superman covers where he's, doing this basically, busting a car, throwing a car. So some more early Amazing Spider-Man covers. See Venom here, like I said, not yet. The teeth aren't yet super long and pointy. No slobber. The mouth is, not quite as wide and agape as it's going to become. These two are interesting to me, just in the way that the finish of it is proto early McFarlane. This feels really early here. He's starting to find his way with inking and stuff, right? But there's just something I find so odd about this one. Like, almost like he didn't ink it himself. Someone else inked it. Like, there's this weird, I hate to say, but almost, well, I don't hate to say, but I just feel maybe it's odd, but there's like a Sam Keith quality to it. Or maybe Sam Keith took something from this specific drawing. But there's something, the basic shapes and things are McFarlane. There's just something different in this particular image. Can't quite put my finger on it, but it's not typical McFarlane, even though it might be older. You know, this is very early Amazing Spider-Man McFarlane, but still very McFarlane, right? This, I don't know. There's something different there going on. He's trying something different, maybe. Yeah, both of these very early Amazing Spider-Man stuff, still very cartoony, not as detailed. The you know, the webbing becomes a lot finer in the inking, right? And he'll even start to do more rows, and you know, this is still almost classic 60s, 70s Spider-Man face, but he's going to start doing way more than that. If I go back, like even here, he started doing it, right? Where there's way more detail, way more rows of webs on his costume, right? And that's kind of where he starts to break apart from the tradition and the traditional look of Spider-Man, right? And then his becomes, you know, the totem, right? Spider-Man. And everyone's trying to do the McFarlane Spider-Man, right? Just like when Neil Adams started doing Batman in the 70s, everyone after that was doing Neil Adams Batman. You know, most of the stuff after Dark Knight Returns, people were doing Frank Miller's Batman, for sure. So all of this very early McFarlane Amazing Spider-Man still. Hydro Man cover this I remember seeing as a kid before I knew what McFarlane was, or who he was rather as an artist and stuff, and that I could name names about comics. I remember seeing this cover, always very memorable to me. Again, his style was different. I dare say there was this weird kind of, you know, you might not be able to see it, but like a manga influence to early McFarlane, right? And I know he was looking at this stuff because he was swiping backgrounds from Akira and putting them in Spider-Man and Batman comics. So he's definitely looking at this stuff. So I feel like he's integrated some of it and the cartooniness of it into, you know, his own personal style. He's made it his own, right? It's not straight up manga, not for sure. Or anime or manga. So again, just early covers here. And they end it all with this one cover from the early Spider-Man issues, issue 3, 4, 5. Very designy. I think the original cover, the colors are a lot better than what I see here. Probably thrown in there at the last minute. That's what it feels like there. So there you go. The McFarlane poster book. I'm sorry. The Marvel poster book featuring the Amazing Spider-Man. And mentioning the artist only on the inside, even though once again, all these images, the ones on the back here, and the ones contained within the actual book, all taken from stuff and illustrations covers that the great Tom McFarlane did. So again, reiterating my point of McFarlane at this time, especially as, you know, an artistic force. You know, his art evolved a lot over these years, and you can see that in this book. And this book itself is a testament, once again, to McFarlane's marketing power in those early 90s. So there you have it. Thank you so much for checking me out. If you do like what you see here, please like and subscribe. That really does actually help out. And other than that, I wish everyone have a great day. I'll see you next time. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13. 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at kingcomics.ca, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.